Hi YouTube, it's Kathy, and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for September 23rd through 29th. This week I read 6 books, I watched 1 show, and I listened to 1 book. First this week I finished Backstagers Volumes 1 and 2 by James Tynion IV. This is a graphic novel series akin to Lumberjanes, except for it has a mostly male cast and it is set inside the backstage area of an all-boys high school theater. Known only to the stage crew, the backstage area is full of mystical rooms that often switch places, meaning it is very easy to get lost there. This features a male-male romance confirmed in the 2nd volume, as well as a character who I gather is trans because he transferred from an all-girls school to this all-boys school. The art is fantastic, the characters are adorable, and this series is a good time. Next, I read An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. Those end pages, though. I have been waiting for this book for years, so much so that I wrote a song about it, which I will link in places. This is a speculative fiction novel that centers April May, a recent graphic design grad who is overworked and underappreciated. On the way home from a very late night, she stumbles upon an impressive statue. Like most New Yorkers, she almost passes it by as just another remarkable New York thing, but at the last second decides to call her friend Andy and they make a YouTube video where they interview the statue, which she decides to name Carl. Turns out that this is not the only mysterious statue to appear. In fact, there are 64 of them all around the world, and they all showed up at exactly the same time with no witnesses. As the discoverer of New York Carl, April May quickly becomes famous, and is someone to turn to in the discussion of what are they and where did they come from. As I mentioned, I've been waiting a very long time for this book and it did not disappoint. April May has many flaws which she does not shy away from telling the reader. And this book explores ad hominem attacks, internet fame, and how reckless those things can make people. Much to my personal joy, April May is also a bisexual protagonist. There was a lot of humor and heartbreak, and I cannot wait for the sequel in this duology. Next I read All Systems Red by Martha Wells. This is a novella about a murder bot who has broken their security code, granting them free will, which they use to watch serialized dramas instead of murdering all humans. They're on contract to guard some humans doing an assessment of a new planet when they come under attack from local creatures as well as an outside force. It was short, action-packed, and the beginning of a series I would consider continuing once the future novellas are published. Next I read The Library at Mount Char by Stephen Hawkins. This one is deeply disturbing and dark, so I suggest not going into it if you are triggered by sexual assault, murder, and all things gruesome, because this has all of that. This centered around Carolyn, one of the 12 children librarians working under what appeared to be a cult leader father. It turned out to be much bigger than that, but I'll let those of you who are interested discover that for yourselves. Each of the children is responsible for learning their catalog, their own section of the father's library. He's cruel, teaches lessons through pain and death, which made Carolyn resentful. When father goes missing, the children go looking for him, and what follows is imaginative, disturbing, and at times seems highly unlikely, yet makes sense in the narrative. If dark reads are your things and you like lions, alternative universes, or libraries, this is a book for you. Finally, I also read Sadie by Courtney Summers. I thought I was just going to start this on Saturday night, and ended up reading the whole thing, only getting up to get more soup and for bathroom breaks. The story is told from 2 perspectives. The first is a crime podcast about the death of Sadie's sister Maddie and Sadie's disappearance. The second perspective is Sadie, who is trying to track down the man that she thinks murdered her sister. I'm told that this is a full cast audiobook, so the sections belonging to the podcast are done with a full cast narration and sound effects, but my library doesn't have the audiobook, so I just had to imagine it in my head. This tale was deeply twisted and incredibly compelling. Trigger warnings for child abuse. Sadie is taken on this winding path to try to find her sister's murderer, and the podcast tries to recreate her steps months later. So you never really find out if she was successful on her mission until the very end. Obviously, I couldn't put it down and I highly recommend it. This week, Survivor Season 37 started, so we watched Episode 1. The theme this time around is David versus Goliath, and I love an underdog story. Funnily enough, one of the Goliath castaways is a wrestler that my roommate has seen wrestle live. The way the first castaway left Fiji was unusual, and although this show gets formulaic, I find myself enjoying it more and more as I watch the older seasons. This week I listened to Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. Firstly, I didn't realize this wasn't a standalone until I got to the end, so that threw me for a loop. But it turns out that the sequel comes out on Tuesday, so my library should get it soonish. This is a fantasy novel about Laszlo Strange, an orphan who ends up working as a librarian after he escapes the cruel monks that raised him. He's always loved stories, especially about the city of Weep, a far-off land he would love to visit. Above Weep, there's a floating citadel where the gods used to live. And unbeknownst to the citizens of the downcast cities, some of their children survived the termination by the Godslayer. The writing in this book is beautiful and the imagery is exquisite. Our second perspective, Sarai, is one of the gods spawn and meets Laszlo in his dreams, and together they create the most beautiful dreamscapes. But they are unable to meet in person. The passions of first love mixed with the history of the area and Laszlo's want of stories and adventure really drive this narrative. Obviously, this ticked some boxes for me considering the protagonist was bookish AF and loves adventures, and that is me. I cannot wait to pick up where this first book left off when I get my hands on Muse of Nightmares. That's it for this week. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down in the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon for my monthly wrap-up. Bye!